Hi, we're Timothy and Colleen Ingram, and you're watching SoulCare 360.
To these particular organizations and forget that our purpose is to fulfill the purpose of God and not to fulfill the purpose of the organization. If the organization is, that is geared towards the kingdom principles and not religious principles, then we have the opportunity to maybe understand, expand, and grow and walk into purpose and destiny. But when these organizations and these families and these other entities that we have in our lives, when their purpose is to raise people like they are, is for something to just to be replicated. I'm this, so you have to be this, and this is how it's going to be forever and ever. When we are part of those things, we die. Parts of us slowly die, and you have to also think about the children that are impacted, the generations that are impacted. If someone doesn't stop and say it stops with me, that I won't allow this to continue, this cycle to continue, then what happens is it can wipe out an entire generation or 2 or 3 generations. And so for me, having lost my youth too, because I sort of experienced some of the things you did, and I did lose my youth, but having lost my youth as well, but it also, when I got to the point of maturity, when I got to the point of seeing that there is something that God wants me to do that has nothing to do with a religious organization. There is a voice that God has given me that needs to be heard outside of a building, outside of an established religious sect, if you will, or organization, or whatever you want to call it. And so when I got to that point that I recognized and realized that there is purpose in me, then you start to ask questions. You start to dig. You start to seek out why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. Why am I depressed? Why do I feel oppressed? Why am I not happy when I'm going to a service? What is it that makes me feel this way about a certain something? And I'm seeing it everywhere I go. Everyone is doing the same thing. There's this power struggle. There is this paradigm. There is this hierarchy, and within these hierarchies and within these paradigms, people are getting hurt. People are not being able to live out who God has called them to be, because some leader or some person in this organization has said, no, this is who you are, this is what you're going to do, and there's no consulting with God. When I started wanting to know who I really was, that was when my journey started, and it's been a very, very, very long journey. And along the way, some of the things I lost is youth.
Well, and I was going to, when you said one of the things that I lost is family, because again, my pastor at the time, pretty much as I'm changing and started to have desires and things, his guidance was, well, you need to go ahead and get married. And so that's what I did. But then as things go and start going wrong, I'm feeling that the problem's me. And so as I'm feeling that it can't be them, it has to be me. So if I get rid of what the problem is, they'll be all right.
Okay, so we need to open this up a little bit for our audience, because you're saying the problem is me, and you're saying that one of the things that the pastor said was, okay, we need to hurry up and get you married, because in essence, we don't want you having sex outside of marriage, which is, anyway. sex outside of marriage. So you go ahead and you get married, right?
Right.
And so because there is no one told you how to be a husband or a father, then what?
Right, because I had seen it, but I seen it through, I was my mother was a single parent, so I didn't have any of that firsthand. I was seeing it through their eyes.
Correct.
I'm looking at my pastor and seeing how he handles his family. But I didn't know how to do that for myself because I had never seen it. My mom got married late in life. So I didn't know what that relationship looked like outside the church.
So you lost family.
Right.
You lost family.
Because I thought when things didn't work out the way they were supposed to, or the way I thought they were supposed to, I thought the problem had to be me. It had to be something that I was doing wrong. It had to be something that God was upset with me for, because if he wasn't upset with me, surely he would give me the desires of my heart. Okay. Sure, he would give me the family that I wanted, the job that I wanted, the home that I wanted. He would take care of all these other things. So if it's not happening, I've got to be the problem.
So, this brings me back. Actually, it's so funny that you should say that, because the message this morning in church was we have to participate with God, right? Mm-hmm. We have to be in participation when God is telling us to do something. It's not we sit and we wait for this thing to happen. It's going to happen, right? Just it's going to happen by osmosis. So you did not know how to participate. You just thought it was going to happen because God is, it's going to happen. It's not like that. And we have to prepare. We have to be so willing to lay down what someone else has said, that we are who we are, what it should look like. We have to be so willing to lay that stuff down in order to prepare, to be prepared, and to prepare our family members for what is real, to prepare our family members for life. And so you are now, everything is just sort of circling around your whirlwind.
Like I took it literally.
Literally.
That God is going, because I can remember thinking, when it came time to graduate from high school, well, there's no need for me. What am I going to go to college for? Because I'm going to do this. I'm going to, I wanted to go to seminary, but I'm going to do this, so there's no need for me to do all this because God is going to take care of it. And that's literally what I thought, that God is going to take care of it if I trust him. If I depend on him, I ask him, God is going to take care of all these things. So I'm waiting on God to do something or to send me some big revelation, some big direction. That never came.
And it wasn't going to come.
But see, what was supposed to happen, my leaders should have been in a position to see.
But they were not.
But they should have been in a position to see the direction I was going down and to help navigate me from that mindset. Because that's what leaders do. If you are influencing a group of people and you see them going down the wrong road, as a leader, you should be able to re-navigate the system.
Okay, well let's talk about that a little bit. Okay, how could they have when they were in error?
Right.
So they didn't have the abilities. They didn't have the knowledge base to be able to direct you into the path that you really should have gone, because they weren't looking to see whether or not Tim was on the right road. They're trying to handle all this other stuff that's going on. And Tim was just a casualty. Go get married, work it out, trust God. When in fact, they were just almost nailing the nail in the coffin. Just making, it was like a perfect setup for failure. And please understand, we always say that we are not bashing anyone, but what we have to do, we have to be able to speak truthfully about these experiences that we have had in our lives.
And because there are, like we said earlier, there are people all over the world that have gone through like circumstances that are in positions that they don't know what to do.
Correct.
They don't know how to overcome. And I think one of the biggest reasons that God has allowed us to overcome is so that we can help others
Correct.
that are in the situations that don't know what to do, that don't know how to get around, that feel like, well, maybe I should just give up because it hasn't worked out for me. And those are all positions that I've been in. You know, well, maybe it's too late now. Again, God is so upset with me that he's not doing this for me, because surely if he was happy with me, he would work it out for me.
And
He
this
would
was
show
just
me,
simply life.
you know. And like I say, I look back. So again, what has it taken from me? My youth, you know, and a lot of my adulthood, because when I became an adult and now I'm no longer with the organization, I didn't know what to do. I wasn't ready for life. I wasn't ready to navigate this thing on my own. And what my crutch or my support system had always been is no longer there. I don't know what to do. Because again, we were brought up that if you leave us, you were never with us, and we don't want anything else to do with you. So the moment I made up my mind that I was going to walk on my own, everything that had been a part of my life up until that point turned around and gave me their back to look at. Why? Because you left us.
Right, right.
And I didn't know what to do.
That's trauma. That's trauma of and within itself. And so, as a matter of fact, all of it was very traumatic, because you're internalizing things, and not only are you internalizing things as a little child, you're also internalizing things as you're growing up, and you're becoming a young man, you're a teenager, and you're seeing all these things that's going on in church, and so you're self-deprecating now. You're blaming you're identifying that you're the issue, when in fact you're not the issue. You were not the issue, and so those are all spaces of trauma that impacts you in such a way that if you don't have a lifeline, if you don't have a safe place or a safe space, it can kill you. It can actually literally, it can kill you literally, and it can kill you physically. And so our biggest goal and our biggest aim is to make sure that no one else is sitting on an island by themselves, having lost their youth, having lost young adulthood, having lost family members, and then having people who you once loved and adored turn their back on you. It's real hard. We don't want anyone to we don't want you to go through those things and not understand that there is a way out, because Tim and I, we actually sit here as testimonies that there is a way out of it, and there's a way through it. And the reason why Tim is telling the story that he's telling is because it has such, there are so many dimensions of it. It's so dynamic in that it impacted every aspect of his life. And so one of the things that we are both doing is we continue the work, because we understand that we have not arrived, that there are still things on the inside of us as a result of how we grew up, some of the things and the traumas that we experienced that we still work through. However, we are healed in such a place and made whole in such a place now that we can reach back and help somebody else. And that's really the crux of what Soul Care 360 is, to help someone else get through what we were able to get through, and we didn't have a voice. We didn't have a safe space. So we're creating this space. And so one of the things that my husband said was that he took everything literal. And I think that's because that's your personality. Yeah, that's your personality. And so a wise person or a wise leader, or someone who really had the ear of God, or someone who really had the people of God on their minds, would have been able to see your struggles and to give you answers for your struggles. Maybe not, this is what you do, this is how you do it, but say to you, young Timothy, okay, this is what's called life, and it's going to happen to you. And let me tell you, these are some of the things that you can do. And even the part where you talked about not going to college, you know, at that point, well, why should I go to college, or why should I? You wanted to be in the band. You played an instrument. My husband is so talented with music and all of that stuff. He wanted to be a state trooper at one point, right? But why? You couldn't do it because
couldn't carry a gun.
can't carry a gun. So what are we saying? We're saying when you are in positions of leadership, you really have to be careful with how you are leading. And it doesn't have to be the people of God, the children of God. It can be organizations. But since we are believers, that is our goal. That's our aim, faith-based. You really have to be cognizant of the fact that you have real, living human beings who's listening to everything that you're saying. They're watching how you live. Whether that's fair or not, that's how it is. And we have a responsibility to make sure that we are showing them God. We're showing them Christ. That we're not power hungry and wanting somebody to be like us, but we want them to be like Christ.
Right.
And so that to me is so very important. And the loss. So how do you feel about now when you are having to, I don't want to say make up for, but there are some things that you have to really work at healing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that
and not you. I mean, because other people were impacted, just like other people were impacted in my stuff.
well, that brought up a lot of when you talk about unresolved trauma, because it brought on resentment.
Yes.
That I didn't realize that I had. Because when I finally got myself together, I was pushing 50. When I finally got myself to a point to where I'm getting the help I needed, the guidance I needed, I'm able to walk, because after it, I had to start all over again. I had to crawl.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to feed myself.
Oh.
I had to learn how to trust again.
Break it.
And now I'm starting to walk again and stand on my own 2 feet. But I'm 50. And all that time is gone. And now I'm resenting what I thought the source was.
Yes.
The two men that I felt, my father, who all the issues I had because he wasn't there, that I duplicated with my children. And that's amazing, because I met my father when I was 16, and I duplicated everything he did to me with my children. And then the pastor that I leaned on, that I thought would make sure that I had everything I needed as far as guidance was, that was going to give me the best advice, when I saw all the issues that I faced because of, now I resented that, or these two men, and I didn't realize that it was causing me to, I want to say, act out, for lack of better words. It caused me issues that was coming out in my relationship, with how I trusted other leaders, with how
Yes.
I allowed people to see me, or how vulnerable I became, because I didn't want to duplicate the same things. That was a cycle. So when I left that organization, because of all of my vulnerabilities and the way I had been taught, that set me up to be taken advantage of in the next organization, because I'm coming there fully exposed. And if people aren't doesn't have your best interest in mind,
they take
then they're going
advantage.
to take advantage of your vulnerabilities. So when I realized they're taking advantage of me and cut that off, I'm running and doing duplicating the same thing in the next organization.
Right.
And at some point, I got to the point where I said, you know what? I'm just not trusting anybody. You know, I never gave up on God, but I gave up on all the organization. I said, you know what? I'm just not doing it. I'm not going for all the hooping and hollering in church.
Right, right.
And ain't being taught nothing. And I see the games with offering and giving, you know, and it's like one of the guys I listen to now, you know, he says, you know, as far as giving, the only person that's benefiting is the preacher. And God would always allow me to see how these things were happening and how people were fleecing the flock.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and those are things that I just resented because I always wanted, I feel like if I'm blessed, I want everybody around me to be blessed. I never forget, I want the church that I was leading at that time, they sent me to a pastors and leaders conference. And I never forget, I went to this big church in Georgia, I can't remember the name, right outside of Atlanta. And I went to this big church, and I remember when the conference was over and I was leaving out, there was a bus stop right outside the fence of the church. And I remember seeing the bus stop full of people. And I began to wonder how, as the pastor of this church, I could allow myself to leave the church in my big, pretty, fine car.
Yeah.
And I got members sitting at the bus stop trying to get home.
Right.
And I've got buses and vans inside the church that could give this group of people a ride home.
Yeah.
I'm like, I couldn't dare go home. You know, I would be the type to, you know what, honey, you take the car, you go home. I'm going to get in the van and take these people home because it's not fair. Because if I'm a benefit, they should benefit as well.
And see, that speaks to who you are as a person. That speaks to your tenderness and your heart towards God from the very beginning. And it was just those things that happened in your life that made you, you know, sometimes have a hard heart. And I'm not, you know, I've got my big old wall up. But Tim, God created you to have such a love for his people. And so even though the things that you thought that you wanted in terms of, you know, the 100-voice choir and being the pastor and all that, I mean, you've pastored. You've been a youth pastor. You've done all of these things. You've been over family and children and family. You've done so many things within a ministry. And so I believe wholeheartedly, because I see you every day. I see what you do. I see how you look at, even my children, how you look at my children. And if there is an issue with them, you're going to try to make sure that you give some type of encouragement, some type of godly advice, some type of fatherly advice. You make yourself available. That's who you are. And I really do thank God for that. Your tender heart, you didn't allow what happened to you. You didn't allow it to become a stony heart. And so that's really a powerful testimony to God using you. And I know that we lost a lot of things in our youth. And even in our early adult years, and like you said, even pushing 50, because for both of us, this is our, third marriage? Both of us, this is our third and final marriage. So we lost a lot, but we've gained so much in that we gain understanding. We are empathetic towards people. We have the ability to now help people who have been in the same situations that we've been in. And I am watching God allow us to bloom. And it's a beautiful thing.
It's, you know, God said that he would redeem the time. And a lot of times when we make mistakes in life, that's why I love that God doesn't look at what you did, but why you did it. Man looks at what you did. Because, you know, I worked in the prison system, and God allowed me to see that some folks are in prison because they made the best decision they could have made at that time. You know, they were caught off guard and they reacted to something. Or they put hope and trust in something that let them down.
Right.
So a lot of times when you deal with flawed people, people that have had issues, that have done things, we can't look at, you know, when you make mistakes, because that's what man does, that's what church does, religion does. They say, you know, well, you can't lead us because, you know, you've been married before.
Right.
You know, and I say, you don't always need the person that got it right. You need somebody that got it wrong and can say, look, don't go down
Say
this
it.
street.
Yes.
Because if you go down this street, it's going to be disaster for you. Well, you can't tell anybody what it's like to go down that street unless you've been there.
That's right.
You know, so somebody has to be able to tell the story of what it's like to mess it up, what it's like to touch the stove and to get burnt. You know, you're not going to like these blisters.
Right.
You're not going to like what they're going to do to you at the hospital.
And that whole healing process, yes.
You know, that pain, that the medicine they gave you for pain that ain't going to work. You know, unless I've been burnt, I can't tell you what that feels like.
Right, right.
You know, so somebody has to be able to tell. And God has just using me to be able to tell all of those things that went wrong for me. You know, even in the time, because see what it was, I had been taught that you only date to get married. So marriage was big on me. So as soon as I got committed, it was time to go down that road because I thought that that's what God was going to be pleased with, only to realize because of the issues that I had, I kept going around in these circles.
Okay, so now let's just be clear. That is not our case. Okay.
But like we said, finally you get it right, and when you get it right, you're ready to walk down the road.
Absolutely.
You thought you were going to when you were 20, but you weren't ready.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so sometimes we find it later on in life. So here comes 55, 56,
Yeah.
or 57 now, and you finally got it right. You finally got through those issues and those things that we went through early on and found out what was causing all of those things and could get it ironed out. So now you can walk upright and the way you should have.
Right.
Yeah.
And I want to say something too. Tim and I we are really fortunate to have found each other in this stage of our lives, because believe it or not, you know, I'm 59 years old. And pretty soon I'll be 60. And never did I imagine that I would be in relationship with someone who has been what I've always desired to have, which was someone that I could feel safe with, someone to speak life to me. And nothing is perfect. Tim is not perfect, Carlene is not perfect, but our desire is for each other and for us to really grow old together and have a beautiful life. That's our desire. So at this point in our lives, I can't help but to feel grateful and thankful to God that He kept His promise. You know, it came at a time where sometimes people thought, what are you doing? What are you doing? You know, but it was just the perfect timing for God to do what He needed to do in us, through us. And now He's allowing us to be able to walk this walk out together, which has been really, really wonderful. And there is so much more to come from us. We are literally just getting started. You guys just wait until our book comes out, or our story, whichever one. Book, story, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? How we met, oh my God.
You know, but again, that's what this is all about.
Yes.
Our journey through life, because one thing that I realized was that I wasn't the only one.
Yes.
You know, and that there's others that are out there that have went through life and church and all of that, and they're out there feeling like, I don't know what to do next. I don't know how. And that's what we're there for,
Yes.
is to help show, the way out, the way around,
Right.
that you're not too flawed
That's right.
for God to use you. Because again, we live in an imperfect world, and we live in an imperfect world, and so if I'm beat up, I want to see somebody else that I can see their bruises. To tell me that there is healing, there is a life after being beat up and bruised and dented and scarred and
Yes.
cut and shot and messed up and used and all of that. I don't want to look at somebody that looks almost perfect
And shiny,
to
yeah.
tell me how I can get through.
Right.
I need somebody that I can see myself in that can tell me this is the way out.
Yes.
I need somebody that has messed it up, fumbled the ball, dropped the ball, had the ball kicked, stolen from you,
Right.
to say, you know what, you can get it back and you can be all right. And that's what we are. That's
Yes.
what God has blessed us to be in. And I totally believe that God is going to do, as he said, and redeem the time.
He is
Because
doing it.
he allowed us to go through those circumstances. He allowed us time to get it together.
Yes.
And I'm just excited about this next phase in our life, what God has. Because again, even with starting the business that we have,
Yes.
at almost 60, God has allowed us to start the business, and it's successful.
Yes, yes.
And that's all in God redeeming the time. God giving us the desires of our hearts,
yes.
and knowing that I don't have another 60 years
Exactly.
to do this. So I'm looking at maybe a good 20 years from now, I'm going to be somewhere sitting back, looking and directing the ship.
That's it.
Instead of steering the ship.
That's it. I want to say something that a good friend of mine, my girlfriend, she always says, and she didn't get it. I mean, it wasn't hers, but it's so powerful. We're in the fourth quarter of our lives, and overtime is not guaranteed.
Right.
And so us being in the fourth quarter of our lives and overtime is not guaranteed, listen, we're all in. We're all in for what God is doing for us. Yes. If I could shift for just a moment, I wanted to say something about mental health. So May is National Mental Health Month, and a lot of the topics and a lot of our platform is based on having good mental health, good mental wellness. And so for the month of May, all of May, it is National Mental Health Month. And what we want to do is we want to encourage you to not just know that it is Mental Health Month, but we want you to start to move towards getting help for yourself if you need help. Move towards broadening your ideas about what mental illness and mental health is and what mental wellness looks like. It is so very important that if you are having thoughts of suicide, if you are having thoughts of wanting to harm someone else, being suicidal, homicidal, being depressed, having all of these different mood swings, seek out help. And there is help outside of the building of a church. There is help in the community. There is help online. You can go to NAMI. You can go to your local mental health area, your local mental health area organization. But whatever you do, don't just stay in the spot of being depressed and feeling like there is no hope, because there is hope. And not just acknowledging that May is Mental Health Month, but doing something to make sure that you get yourself in a healthy place, that your family can get themselves in a healthy place. And that's one of the things that you want to do. You want to make sure that what you're doing good, that it is something that is duplicated within the generations. So, Timothy,
Yeah.
This has been a wonderful talk.
You know, and as you were saying, it's okay to go talk to somebody.
Absolutely.
You know, a lot of times we're taught that, you know, we don't talk to anybody, that God's going to fix it all. But, you know, one of the biggest breakthroughs I've got is when I was somewhere sitting and laid it all out on the table and allowed somebody to see inside of what I've been hiding for so long.
Yes.
And
Powerful.
once, even in just talking about it, there was healing that came.
Yeah. Yeah, that release, and that is so powerful, laying it out on the table and just not being ashamed to lay it out, because mental health and or trauma has this whole stigma of shame that's wrapped around it, but we're here to just rip all of that away, because we want you to be made whole. We want you to be healed. And so with that, this has been another episode of, what is it, honey? Soul Care 360.
You know, and again, we thank you, and we thank you for watching and paying attention, and we hope that we're being a blessing to you. And you can, if you desire, to send us an email at scww360@gmail.com. And again, we thank you for, we thank God for blessing us with this opportunity, this new platform, and we look forward to many, many, many more opportunities to present to you what God has blessed us with.
Amen.
So until next time, you be blessed. We're praying for you all. And please pray for us that God will allow us to be the blessing in somebody's life.